I request everyone to please settle down. As soon as we all are settled, we are going to start our day 2. I prefer saying super morning because I have been taught since my childhood, you have to aim for 100. At least what you will get is a 90. So let's aim for a super day today and wish us all a great super morning. Super morning, everyone. After a scintillating day 1 and a flamboyant package of great wisdom pouring and showering on all of us, we are here to start the day 2. To start off the day 2, I would like to first request Mr. Prem Singh Ji, Summit Director and President, Group HR, JK Organization, and President, National HRD Network, Delhi and NCR Chapter, to please come and join us on stage to welcome one of the most esteemed guests that you can have a chance to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause for Mr. Prem Singh Ji.
Good morning, everyone. So, when I entered the field of HR, human resources, I also had some heroes. And some of those heroes were my bosses. And Adil, you want to join on the stage? Adil, please. Please give a big round of applause to Adil. And so I have a lot of my gurus in the audience today. And it's a coincidence that one of my former bosses, one of my former gurus, Dr. VP Singh is here in the audience. Please give a big round of applause to Dr. VP Singh. And my another guru, former boss, one of my former bosses at SR, Dr. Adil Malia is here. And by the way, one is on the right side, another is on the left side, and I'm sandwiched in between. So it's a great coincidence, and it feels very humble that I'm in mid of the two gurus, and it's a huge pleasure to introduce somebody like Dr. Adil Malia. Adil brings a very rich leadership experience of more than 35 years in the organizations like GE, Godrej, Coca-Cola, and Marks and Spencer. The latest assignment he had was with SR Group as President Group HR for more than a decade. Very strong philosophy in terms of the people dimension, making an impact on the organizations. A change management approach which is so unique in itself. A poet, writer, philosopher, and a thinker. It's always a music to hear Dr. Adil Malia. Adil, thank you so much for having accepted our request to be with us this morning. And I must say, every time I reach out to you, you have never disappointed me. And that feels so great. Thank you for listening to the voice of your Chela. And over to you. Once again, I would request all of you give a very big round of applause to Adil. Adil will be talking about happiness, well-being, and a sense of purpose in life. Something so unique in his own personal style, in his own very unique style. Over to you, Adil.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Am I plugged on? Can you just lower the light there, please? Prem Singh, thanks for the lovely invitation. Thank you for saying that I was on the left side, outside. So thank you for that. Coming to Delhi is such a pleasure. Every time you come to Delhi, you get to meet a lot of friends. Gulzar Saab, and he's such a famous poet, very rightly says, "Chalo, dosto pe mukadma thok diya jaye. Kam se kam waqt usi bahane tarikh ke din mil to diya jaye." And in HR, we have found a solution to that. We don't need to thok our case. हम HR submit कर देते हैं. कम से कम उसी बहाने पुराने दोस्त नए दोस्त बनते हैं, पुराने दोस्त मिल जाते हैं. So thank you very much for having me out here. Happiness, strange but very important topic, and we want to talk a few things about. Actually entered the study room and torn off the presentation which he had already worked on. So by the time he came and had his dinner and went back to work on his presentation, he was just exasperated. What would I now do? Because the presentation was torn, and good time I'm working on it for last so many hours, I don't even have a backup, and tomorrow morning is barely a few hours away. He got exasperated, called the wife. Naturally, wives are always people who you scream at when you're damn angry, unfortunately. And of course, he got angry at the child and said, "What have you done? Can you please put this presentation back again?" Knowing fully well that nothing could be done. He went out and started juggling around to see if he can put anything up. Certainly, he couldn't put anything up so fast. But within 10 minutes' time, the child came up with his presentation, which was torn, properly stuck out with tapes. So he saw and he was exasperated. He said, "How did you do it? What did you do? How did you know?" He said, "I don't know what about your presentation. But before tearing your presentation, I drew the face of a man behind, and I actually put the face of the man right. The presentation became right." So the moral of the story, I don't need to tell you, if you get the man behind your systems and processes right, if you get to understand the people who create value for you right, I promise you, tons of the things which you otherwise have to put right will automatically fall in place. After that, your wisdom will be required to ensure that it is sustained, but the people will drive the processes right. And that is the quintessence of the concept of happiness that we want to talk about. In fact, look at the way in philosophy and in poetry this has been enamored. Take this lovely couplet. मेरी हंसी मेरे गमों का लिबास है, मेरी हंसी मेरे गमों का लिबास है, पर जमाना कहाँ इतना गमशनाज है. जब मैं उदास था तो जमाना था मुतमईन, अब मैं मुतमईन, जमाना उदास है. Look at the, beyond the beauty of the verse, tear open and look at the kind of quintessence of the philosophy that it is talking about. Hasi or gum, the two emotions, and you are saying, "Meri hasi mere gamon ka," which means predominantly I'm so unhappy, but I'm putting out a mask to the world, and the world believes I'm happy. Because somewhere down the time, you will have to learn to read the signals of your people, but the entire cognitive dissonance, and most of you are students of psychology understand what is cognitive dissonance, and we'll talk about it at a point of time. The sheer ability to say something but behave and reflect in some other way, or to give a signal that something else is happening when you are inside feeling something else, makes your hasi gamon ka libas. And how will you then read? Then it says, "Par zamana kahan itna gam shanaz hai." The sensitivity of the world is not there. Which means that the individual, when it is operating with a collective, predominantly the collective has to learn to be sensitive to the individual, but oftentimes, whilst that is an expectation, the reality is far from that. The reality is that the collective is never sensitive to the individual. Then he reacts again in the last lines to say, "Jab main udas tha, to zamana tha mutmain." Contradictory. When I was sad inside, the world was becoming very happy because it did not become sensitive to me. Why should I now be sensitive to the world? So the philosophy of it, which gets into the emotions, is that each one of us, and this is not a new thing, each one of us is a bag of emotions, and we have to understand our emotions, create the collective emotions of the groups we work in, and the group has to likewise reciprocately understand our emotions. And then collectively, when we come together, it's not happiness. Collectively, when you can synergize the two, is called in the terms of psychology and management now in contemporary literature as flourish. So we will talk about happiness, and at some point of time, if time permits, we will talk about what is flourish, which is Mark Selemon's concept of how corporates succeed in creating value only in a state of flourish and not necessarily only in a state of happiness. But caution, we need to put together. This is not one of those soul salvation, inspirational, spiritual kind of a session. This is not maybe a Sri Ravi Shankar kind of a session on happiness. This is about happiness on the breathing tracks of your organization, on the shop floor of your plants, in the floors of your offices, where small departments and departmental heads are operating. How do we, on the breathing track of the organization, create happiness? The larger philosophy is fantastic, but when this philosophy has to be brought down to the shop floor where we are leading the organizations and the companies have to make value, how do we create? How do we stimulate? Do we understand the concept well? Because unless you understand the concept well, it's a rainbow that you are looking at which will never be achieved. And that's the kind of thing that we want to talk about. So caution, it is not about that. I'm not taking you to the Himalayan tracks and telling you to get into a state of penance to understand happiness. I'm wanting you to share your existing style and ways of working to be able to create happiness on the shop floors of your organization. Because unless you are in a state of authentic happiness, unless you can create flourish, your company will not create value, and therefore you will not succeed. First of all, we need to understand emotions. And let me be very frank, because this is a closed-door HR community, and HR community can share it most together. I have a very, very strong feeling that the institutes and colleges from where we have all come have taught us a lot many processes. They have taught you how to do performance management. They have taught you how recruitment should ideally work. They have taught you the theory of how transactions have to be managed, what is organization development. We have learned to cut our teeth in terms of knowledge on the subjects. But we have never been able to, or we have never been taught the core emotions, except for maybe a chapter in psychology you may have done while studying movie or something of that kind, but we have never gone deep into understanding the emotions of people, because if people continue to be the sole factor of value creation in an enterprise, unless and until you understand what drives that human being, how are you ever going to make that human being a contributing, wealth-creating, value-creating member of your universe? And therefore understanding emotions, which has never been taught, and most of us have never invested our time in trying to understand what emotions are all about, leaves that yawning gap between what we end up doing and what we ideally should be doing. We should be understanding people and looking at them from how to generate that behavior that we want. Instead, we end up doing what we are comfortable doing, putting up processes and SOPs, doing performance management, without really understanding how to stimulate the human being to create performance levels. Unfortunate reality. Each one of us is born with 6 basic emotions. And you can't avoid it. You have it in you. Happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. Of course, there are multiple schools of thought. Some say there are 27, some say there are 45. But historically, of all of us in psychology understood that predominant human beings are born with these 6 emotions. And you have no choice about it. Every moment you breathe, you feel. And every moment that you are feeling, you are communicating one of the 6 emotions in every which way. There's no way you can avoid it. So as you breathe, you feel, as you feel, you communicate, and as you communicate, in whatever language you use to communicate, predominantly you are communicating one of the 6 emotions that I told you about. And therefore, next time in an argument, someone says, don't get emotional about it. Don't really go and argue. Just buy a book of Morgan and King, which is about basic psychology, and give that book to him to understand that actually it is your ignorance. You can't not be emotional about something, because emotions are naturally coming along with every moment of breath you take. Therefore, if this is what emotions are all about, now we need to use this concept of emotions and bring it to happiness. How does it link up? If you look at what are emotions predominantly, there are 3 things that happen in an emotion. There is number 1, a subjective experience that you are going through. So there is an experience, transactional experience that happens, that creates a psychological response, and that psychological response leads to a behavioral response. And that is how every time an emotion happens, moment to moment, you are expressing emotions. These three things are happening. There is an event. That event is triggering a feeling. That feeling is triggering an emotion. Emotion leads to behavior. And therefore, every behavior is led by an emotion. Therefore, what is happiness now? This is the basic understanding of emotions. Any activity or thought that creates a feeling of pleasure, positive feeling of joy, contentment, glee, a certain sense of achievement, safety, serendipity, security, leads to a state of pleasure. And when you are in a state of pleasure, you experience happiness. So number one is sets of events which give you positive pleasure. Now the way the human body and the psychology or the psyche is designed is, from the time you are a child without anyone teaching you this, there are two things we all do. We approach pleasure and we avoid pain. Pinch a child and it will start crying. Tickle a child with pleasure and it will laugh, smile, do all the positive things. Now who taught that child psychology? So predominantly the human body inside is working on a hedometer, and we'll talk about hedometer a bit while later, but is working on a natural design which makes him approach any sentiment or any sensation or any activity which gives him pleasure and avoids all those that give him pain. Now simple logic. How do we in HR do activities, programs, design our processes, write our SOPs, never from a point of view whether it ever gives our people positive pleasure or negative pain, because the moment it gives any kind of a pain, people are going to avoid it, disgust it, and not approach it. So number one is happiness, therefore is that. Now what is the peculiar characteristic of happiness? The peculiar characteristic of happiness are three. Number one, authenticity is very, very important. Whenever you are using strength and not only rewarding strength, it gives happiness. If someone is indicating in your organization that he possesses a certain strength, we are very upfront in giving him some reward, a kind of an immediate spot reward letter. We believe we are doing everything because you are rewarding the strength, versus the characteristic of happiness in a corporate environment is not rewarding the strength, but using the strength and connecting it to the larger purpose is what gives him happiness. So if you cannot give him an assignment, or if you don't make him do a task which gives him an opportunity to use his strength, then he is unhappy. So authenticity is one of the most critical elements of happiness. The second is using potential or using the virtues. We identify potentials. We make a great pleasure out of telling people purely because we want to retain talent that you are high potential, but we never focus on how we are going to be using that potential for future development of the organization, never connecting him to the strategy, never connecting him to the value that you are generating. As a consequence of which, we end up rewarding potential. We give him that hypo letter, we do some special programs, we send them on some special trips, we celebrate their presence on the list of high potentials, but never end up using their potential talent. Experience with Coca-Cola. 20 top organizational problems after the annual business plans are made are identified as critical drivers that the CEO of the group will drive. 20 top projects. And on those 20 top projects, the identified hypo talent work with him in mixed team of the hypos directly reporting to him. That motivates because you are not only rewarding him, but actually you are using the potential which you say you have seen to create a solution for the possible future problems that you are creating. Using potential creates happiness. Rewarding it momentarily creates that certain feeling, and which we will talk about what is the model of rewarding. But as the subject is so close to my heart, if I tend to overrun on time, around 10 minutes into the closure of the session, just give me some signal so that we don't overrun the session. Otherwise, we can keep going and talking about happiness long time more. What do organizations do? We create myriad shortcuts. Because we do not have mechanisms, because we do not have the knowledge, because we have never designed the processes, what do? We have got potential. This potential will want to run away. When he's wanting to run away, we want to recognize him. We will increase their salaries. We will give him a high potential allowance or whatever we want to call. Maybe we will send him for a special session to Harvard to attend for 1 week, all under the belief that this superficialities will retain. And that is what we do. We use shortcuts in absence of long-term understanding and processes, and as a consequence of which, we do not succeed in creating happiness. 300 years, ladies and gentlemen, of people working in organized industry. And in this 300 years, what a plight. We have not succeeded in identifying a standard model of motivation which will always work. Motivation itself is such a moving target. You can never get all your ducks in one straight line, as a consequence of which the only understanding we have as to why we have reached to that state comes from the fact that we have not understood happiness. We have not understood human beings. We have not understood human psychology. Particularly, we have never understood what is the brand of psychology called positive psychology, as a consequence of which we use shortcuts. We are champions of processes, and therefore we try to use the process without understanding what is the story behind the process, where is the man behind the presentation that we were talking about, how do you motivate him, rather than that we just put the process in place. And why should we do that with people? What's so critical about it? People are the only factor of value creation, as you all know, which can create value for itself and can create value from another factor of value creation. Land, money, machine can't do that. They cannot even create value for themselves by themselves. So they need the human mind or the human energy to create value, and can never create value from something else. And if you really look at it in terms of comparative cost, it is one of those very few low-cost, high-contribution kind of asset that you have in value creation journey. Now, if you want to use this low-cost, high-contribution, value-creating resource in your enterprise, you will have to be mindful of two shortcomings which human as a factor brings in. One is human beings are a bag of emotions, and therefore if you do not positively engage them, or you do not design programs which they think are authentic programs for them, they get disengaged. Now the journey of value creation comes when people put in the discretionary effort that they have in their own might and will to be able to create that value. So the whole journey is, how do I make my people give that discretionary thing and not the forced thing? How do I get that discretionary effort from him? So the fact is that human beings are emotions and require that. And the second setback that we have is that human beings, or the human value creator, is the only resource which comes with a choice. Which comes with a choice. The money in your bank account cannot say, I don't like the name Vijay Mallya, Adil Mallya they like. Vijay Mallya on my bank account, so I don't want to remain in that bank account. I want to move my account. No choice. You are in his account, you are in his account. Land cannot decide, once it has been bought, as to where does it want to belong to. Same with machine, same with land, same with everything else. Except people who work with you are the only resource who come with a choice whether they want to continue working with you or not. And if they are valuable assets, you certainly want them, but they have the choice, you don't have the choice. Now the question is very simple. How do we, in this whole journey of human factor, which contributes to the value creation, where people are the only low-cost, high-contributing value creator, how do we positively engage to create happiness for him and ultimately flourish for the enterprise? How do we create that level of engagement such that he does not ever think, of using his choice to want to move out. People don't move out for money, but I don't want to use that hackneyed term that people don't leave organization for money, they leave bosses and all that story. Sounds very hackneyed, cliched, but true. But what is important is, how do I engage and connect? Not only engage, but engage and connect my people to the larger strategy and the larger purpose of the enterprise, where he starts seeing himself as a meaningful value-creating resource and not just a rewarded resource. That creates happiness for him. And then how do I create that energy around which he starts contributing value to all the stakeholders and shareholders such that the enterprise is in a state of flourish. And that is very, very important, which we miss out on. So therefore it becomes fairly, the golden rule is very simple therefore. No great amount of intellectual wisdom or knowledge is required to come to the conclusion that organizations that understand their people resources design what we call bespoke processes and not mass scale processes. Now this is exactly another important thing that we end up doing wrong. So each individual comes with his own individual requirements which needs to be bespoke. So for the top end 15 or 20%, always remember that